thank God, I'm so excited. It's like,
All right, welcome to Sticks and Sips, the Drew Estate Virtual Happy Hour. I'm Frankie Drinks Moreno here. Big episode 16. We've been on the air with you guys for the last 4 months. Feels like forever, but super honored that you guys are tuning in tonight. I have some amazing guests and some amazing people hanging out in the Zoom lounge with us. And without any further ado, since this is a virtual happy hour, let's go right into it. Let's see what's on the menu for tonight. All right, so I'm going to make a real simple. It's called a St. G&T. It's a riff on a Spanish gin and tonic. Our sips tonight are St. George gins and more. We have 3 different expressions of it. Our special guests are Lance Winters and Dave Smith from St. George Spirits. Our stick is the Acid 20, and our raffle, as always, is the Pappy Van Winkle cutter. So all you got to do is hashtag Ask Frankie Drinks. If we pick your question for me or for our guests or anybody in the Zoom lounge, if we pick your question, you get this beautiful cutter that we're more than happy to send your way. So with that being said, and because I'm super excited, I've got some great friends on the show tonight, but what's a happy hour without a cocktail? So I'm going to be making a very, very simple cocktail for you guys. It's a gin and tonic. It's a Spanish style gin and tonic. It's real simple. All you need is some St. George gin, some great tonic water. You need some aromatics, and real simple. All you need to do is add your gin to a real, I'm using a wine globe, but you could use any glass that you like. You want to add your gin and your aromatics, and you want to top it with tonic. So let's go live here, you guys. I'm flying without a net here. So today, usually I drop it into a video, so you guys can watch it later. But this is your one shot, so it's super easy, guys. Little 2 ounces of gin right there, and I'm using the St. George Botanivore, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm going to drop some aromatics in here. I've got some allspice berries that I'm going to drop in here. A little bit of star anise, a little bit of cinnamon. I'm going to use a little a lime, a little lemon rind, and some orange, and place it right there nice and neat. And now I'm going to top it with some Fever Tree tonic water. I'm using Fever Tree's great. There's some great tonic waters out there you guys want to use, and you just want to top it off. And Spanish style is pretty strong. I use a little more tonic, but all you want to do after that is give it a little bit of a stir, just to incorporate it. You're not giving it a big stir, just a light stir. Stir it around, and here's your what I call a St. G&T, and I'm going to take a sip. So, oh man, that is delicious. That's going to keep me going through this show. I hope you guys had an opportunity. I put it up on Instagram, so if you guys want the instructions, directions, you guys got them out there, or watch the video again. Super easy, super refreshing, and it's a great, great cocktail for you guys to have with your cigar, especially as it's we're in the middle of summer. It's super hot, especially down here. So with that, enjoy. And I'll say a big cheers to all of you, to all of our guests out there. I know they've got their own cocktail. We'll get to that in a second. As everybody's toasting, let's check into the Zoom lounge. And in the Zoom lounge, I've got my special guests, Lance Winters and Dave Smith from St. George. How you guys doing?
doing excellent, Frankie. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm beyond honored that you guys are with Six and Sips tonight. And I'm going to ask you, what are you drinking today?
So right now I'm doing a slightly modified terroir martini. I love that intensity, and I up the intensity a touch by doing a nice rinse with the Bruto aperitivo. It still carries some of those foresty aromatics and bumps it up a little bit, and then gives it a nice bitter back palate. And when I'm smoking one of these Liga Privada number 9s, it's sort of a perfect pairing for me. Makes me very happy.
Fantastic. Dave, what do you have? You have the same?
Yeah, man, I'm starting out with the same thing. There's a lot of good reasons to love it, but it's also just a pink drink and it's pretty.
There you go.
Listen, I don't usually do stemware, but for you guys, all the time. All the time.
And that is a beautiful cocktail, my friend.
Oh yeah.
Cheers, guys. Joey, our global creative director. Welcome back, as always. Always good to see you.
16 weeks in a row. I can't miss it.
16 weeks in a row. Listen, it's always an honor to have you on, especially even on the day when he was having his anniversary. He still managed to check in. So that's his commitment to Sticks and Sips and to Drew State, and always great to have you on.
Joey, that's why the missus drank your bottle of gin.
Yep.
That was revenge.
You have no idea. You don't know the disaster of opening the cabinet and it's gone. I'm like, so
We're gonna need a mailing address.
Yeah.
Oh, you will get that. So I had to pivot. My cocktail is, of course, what else? Mezcal and the cochino that Frankie gave to me before we left the office earlier today. So that's my martini for tonight with a little bit of lemon in there, just to zest it up.
Nice.
That's a great riff.
Keeping it
Yeah, it's super hot down here in South Florida, so you need something that's sharp and cool at the same time.
Absolutely. Next up in the Zoom lounge, we got Eddie Delamaza from Big Game Liquors. Eddie, welcome, brother. How you doing?
Welcome. I keep on getting kicked out because the kids are on.
Okay. This is like this is like the old days when you were on dial-up, and when you were hearing all those and somebody picked up the phone and you couldn't get the download. Remember?
That's it. That's exactly it. Everybody's on Wi-Fi at home watching Netflix. What am I drinking? That I heard. So I am drinking.
Oh, the Chile vodka.
And so I'm making a little Moscow Mule with some little hard ginger beer.
Nice.
In my little plastic cup.
Yeah, there you go. So talk about glassware, Eddie. So you guys know Eddie is the co-founder of Craft Spirits Fest in Miami. This year we're taking a little break, but we're going to come back next year strong. So we're always happy to have you on, Eddie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now I have the distinct honor of welcoming I'm going to call it, he is the master distiller for St. George. He's also the president for St. George. Yeah, also that guy. Yeah, exactly. It's the first guy, not the other guy. I understand that they look very similar, but one's, slight beard, one's heavy beard. So we got this. We got this, guys. So yeah. I'm going to refer to Lance as the I would call him a brother in disruption, an innovator. He's an incredible, passionate, creative force. St. George is known for their gins, their vodkas, their brandies, an absinthe, liqueurs, and whiskeys. So, these guys do it all. And this is the cool part. So, don't blush, Lance, nominated 5 years in a row for James Beard.
As Susan Lucci, the James Beard Awards.
The outstanding wine, beer, and spirits producer. And with that, I'm going to say welcome, Lance, to Sticks and Sips. Cheers, my brother.
Thank you, Frankie. Cheers to you, my friend.
So, Lance, here's the time when I'm going to ask you like a question, and it gives me a chance to sip. So take that sip and enjoy. So
true.
Tell us a story of St. George, because you guys have a very storied history.
We do have a very storied history, and it all starts back in 1982 when your group, German gentleman who had come to California, fell in love with California. He had been a judge with the Ministry of Culture in Germany. And when he was here and he was in love with the place, he realized that the checks from the Ministry of Culture would dry up pretty quickly since he wasn't working for him anymore. So he decided to do what he had started doing when he was just a kid in Germany, and that's distill. The laws had just changed here in the United States to a point that would allow somebody to do a small startup distillery. Before that, it was just so incredibly cost prohibitive and so difficult to do. Jorg was the first one to do it. I can't say enough positive things about immigrants coming to our country, because they're pioneers. I mean, we all come from some immigrant that came to this country. Most of us, anyway, that are probably watching this. Jorg shows up and he brings his family's multi-generational tradition of distilling to the U.S. What he brought was the tradition of distilling fruit brandies, eau de vies, and it was a very difficult slog. At the time that he started, 1982, I mean, show of hands, how many of you can remember 1982? How many of you were drinking in 1982? Milk. I was there, and you go out, and people were drinking wine coolers. And anytime Chardonnay or Sauvignon Blanc is too powerful to be consumed without the application of 7-Up to it, it's not the time that you want to be making fruit brandies and trying to push those on the world to be drank neat. Fortunately for all of us, Jorg was is still a very stubborn guy. And he stuck with it. And the reason he did it is because even though there wasn't an audience here for eau de vie, it's a fucking beautiful spirit. Can I say that? It's thank you. I just want to make sure there are no censors there. Jack, don't get mad. Anyway, it's
by the way, we highly encourage elaborative language.
So
we tend to be passionate about what we do, and sometimes the language slips. So
We got a story about that.
yeah, we do have a story about that. We'll talk about Dave's hire. But Jorg was making eau de vies when I first showed up at the distillery almost 25 years ago. I had been a brewer before that, right before that, and before being a brewer, I was a nuclear engineer. I showed up after learning that whiskey is distilled beer that gets barrel aged. It's a very simple way of putting it, but it's basically the case. And I wanted to make whiskey, and Jorg was somebody that I knew by reputation. Knocked on his door, showed up with a bottle of my homemade whiskey, and said, "I want a job." And he said, "We'll try you out for a month and see what happens." And here we are, almost 25 years later. During the span of that time, we've gone through a lot of different permutations in this business. We went from laying down whiskey, and while that was going on and we were making eau de vies, I'd go out with our sales team and visit the market, and I saw a proliferation of flavored vodkas. And the one thing that unified all those flavored vodkas, the one thing they all had in common, is that they were terrible. You'd smell it, and it would be a chemical approximation of whatever the flavor was that was on the label. You would taste it, and it would be awful ethanol, and then a great fake chemical aftertaste. And I came back to the distillery and I said, "Hey, Jorg, we're making these things that smell and taste exactly like the fruit that's on the label, and nobody here wants to buy it. And these jackasses are making this stuff that's just tastes like poison, and they're selling it ass over tea kettle," as my great grandmother used to say. And we started tinkering with vodka using the same philosophy that we applied to eau de vie, and Hangar One was born. And that one really took off for us. And we ran with that for a while. And while we were doing that, we ended up making absinthe, which we had been making for 9-10 years before it was actually 11 years before it was legalized.
The worst kept secret in the Bay Area.
Worst kept secret in the Bay Area. We're making it, and we couldn't sell it. It was not against the law to make it. At the time, it was against the law to sell it. So we made it, and then we destroyed it. And so we were in a really, really good position when absinthe was legalized again, and we were able to be the first domestic producer in the United States to bring one onto the market. After that, we ended up selling the Hangar One brand, and then exploding into the gin area. Frankie, I don't know if you want me to talk about the differences between the gins right now, because we're sort of focusing on those. I can wait until after the history lesson. You tell
let's
me.
Let's wait till after the history, because this is fascinating. I'm fascinated to hear it.
Okay.
So please continue.
Yes, sir. So after we launched the gins, at that point, Dave launched the breaking and entering in its first iteration. And then we slowly started changing the liqueurs that we did, and then introduced our vodka line, the St. George vodkas. with a regular all-purpose vodka, California citrus that uses 3 different types of citrus, and then our chili vodka, which is thank you, Eddie. It's a game changer when it comes to chili vodkas. It's a chili vodka that's not just all about heat. It's not a hazing tool. This is not the bottle that you bust out when people have stayed at your dinner party for way too long and you want to get them the fuck out of your house. It's the one that you pour, and if you're Eddie, you make one of the best mules that you've ever had. If
Little ginger beer. I'm telling you, I'm like, and I'm not a vodka drinker, but I knew we were doing gin. That we were, focusing on gin. But I'm like, you know what? That's just I brought something else out.
It's not that St. George has a limitation on what they produce.
That's
here.
what I wanted just to make sure.
They kind of got a little something for everybody, and that's kind of emulates a lot of what Drew Estate does.
Yeah.
And so please, so Lance, continue.
Yeah.
So you actually handed me a beautiful segue. I would say that sort of like Drew Estate, what we're doing is we're using each one of these categories as a way to express ourselves. You can't, if I wanted to get to know all of you, everybody that's watching right now, I couldn't just sit down and have a conversation about one thing. We could talk politics and I'm going to learn something about you, but not everything about you. Then we could talk about your favorite movies. Then we could talk about how you feel about astrology. Where do you live? How do you feel about where you live? Every single one of those conversations builds up to give me a complete picture of who you are. We communicate through making spirits. And so every one of these is a way for us to show you a little bit more about who we are. And we love doing it. And Joey, I think this is sort of close to where you are. We're also, you talk about loving being able to have all these different expressions of the cigars, because it's a different opportunity for you to craft the package for it and to be expressive that way, to have some more creativity. It's the same thing for us. We're in this not because we love the manufacturing process. We're in this because we love creating things and then sharing those with the world and seeing how people react to it. And it's a blast. And that's where we find ourselves right now. We are in a place where we've got the creative freedom to be able to make whatever we want now and put that out. And it's going to hit with some people. It's going to miss with some. I mean, there's a rum that we make that is one of the most fucked up rums you'll ever have. It is an agricole rum that smells and tastes like a sex scene on Animal Planet. It's that one. Lighting's terrible in this place. I don't know. We got to talk to somebody about that. But it's
had it, love it.
Thank you. But if I put it in front of 10 people, randomly selected, 7 of them are going to say, "What the hell is wrong with you? What is this stuff?" The other 3, though, are going to love it, and they won't be able to find anything to replace it.
Those other 3 are the cigar smokers. And
yeah, that's me and Frankie, too, right there.
Yeah, they're the mezcal drinkers in the group. They're the ones who want something that's unusual.
Yeah, totally true. And so that's where we are now as St. George, and we're very, very fortunate to have an incredible team. Our entire production team, our sales team, our admin team here, even Dave, we're lucky to have.
Even Dave.
Absolutely everybody
Even Dave, that was phenomenal. I wish I was my segue to Dave, but Dave, we'll come back to that.
Hey, he's bald, so thumbs up, man. All right.
We're all going for speed here. It's speed and efficiency.
Exactly.
Still got it.
Yeah, and I hope you never
flaunting
lose
it.
I hope you never lose it.
I'm flaunting it, right? While I still have it, I got to flaunt it.
It looks good. It looks very good. I'm totally jealous. So, but yeah, that's where we are now. I think it brought us up to speed. So.
Well, listen, I thank you for that incredible history of St. George. There's a lot of people, I don't know if I could say pulpit cult, when you ask them, like, who started the craft distilling movement in America, and he's going to say St. George. And so I tip my hat to you guys, because That is what you started in 1982. Going up against Bartles and James, and I know how hard that was in Boone's Farm. But the fact, but they're gone, and you're still here, says a lot about you, and says a lot about your impact in the world of spirits. So I'm going to go a little bit. I'm going to jump back a little bit because you kind of glossed over something. Like it's like, hey, I was a guy that was brewing beer, and and I wanted to do some whiskey. And then you just like dropped it, and that was a nuclear scientist. So listen, you need to explain that. You need to get into that and tell us a little bit about that, just a tad.
Okay, it's gonna be sort of like therapy, I guess.
This is a good therapy set. This is good. Actually.
Yeah, this is really good. It's the best one. Therapy with cocktails and cigars. So I was sort of without direction when I finished high school. I had turned down stupidly an ROTC scholarship because I didn't want to join the military, and there are a lot of reasons not to want to. But when I realized at some point, I'm 19 years old now. This is obviously a year after high school. I'm 19 years old. I have no direction in life. My life is half over at this point, and I need to figure out some direction. And I had taken a test in high school that would have placed me into this nuclear engineering program in the Navy, and I reached out to the recruiter and I said, "Hey, tell me more about this." He told me more about it, and I ended up going into the Navy in '84 and going through nuclear power training, which, by the way, was in Florida. I was in Orlando. Great. I was in Orlando, Florida, for about 7 months for that training there, and then off to Connecticut. Orlando was fantastic.
Back then.
Yeah, back then.
Back then.
I had a map of where all the happy hours were. I put on about 40 pounds after high school. I went to Orlando at 165 and left at 205. It was because
all muscle. It's
oh yeah, it was all taquitos from Chi-Chi's. There was also a place in the Disney World property called the Giraffe Lounge that every night for happy hour, 2-for-1 drinks. And so we'd just go get 2-for-1 Long Island iced teas because it was the best bang for the buck. And you could eat these huge shrimp free for the whole happy hour. You fill a plate. And so on a sailor's budget, it was a great thing. So anyway, I was a nuclear engineer on board the aircraft carrier Enterprise. That was my Navy time. That was my nuclear engineering time.
Well,
and actually,
that's yes. Go ahead.
It's where I cemented my love of cigars. I started cigars in high school. Can I mention a different brand that I started with?
Of course you did.
I started with Macanudos. They were easygoing. They felt classy. It was either the Portofino Cafe or the Earl of Lonsdale Cafe. Those were the two that I smoked in high school. And then in the Navy, when I got to Florida, my girlfriend in Florida, Kathy Brandner, if you're still out there.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just got a Google girlfriend call out. This is a first for Sticks and Sips. Thank you, Lance.
Yeah. My pleasure. I'm giving you history here. So
those questions later are gonna get super weird.
Yeah.
Can you spell her last?
Yeah, Kathy's dad kept a box of Punch cigars in his humidor, and I'd snag a Punch from time to time. And then on board the ship, I just walk around and chew on one. Because if you get a good cigar, you can chew on it and enjoy the shit out of it before you even start to light it up. So that was my thing. But now, the number 9 Liga Privada, holy shit! It's that's a great smoke. I'm smoking that right now.
That's a fantastic thing. I'm gonna add a little bit into me and Eddie back in 2012. Wanted to do something to celebrate craft spirits in South Florida. So we started something called Craft Spirits Fest. and you know, one of our early guys, and I'm going to give him an early shout out, Paul Sciarra. I know you're watching out there, so I want to give you a big shout out, man. Big supporter of what we were trying to do really early on, and brought St. George along, and that's where I got to, you know, meet, you know, the brand St. George. And then in 2014, you know, as you know, we were working with a lot of like small brands and boutique brands. 2014, St. George gets recognized by Thrillist as best craft distiller in America, Whiskey Advocate, Craft Whiskey of the Year, Whiskey Magazine, Craft Whiskey Producer of the Year, and you guys get inducted into Spirits Journal Hall of Fame. So 2014 is a good year for you guys. Would you
All
agree?
downhill since then.
That's
I just gotta pipe in here for a second. Just say thank you, man. It's amazing to speak. You're super kind and gracious as always, but you do your research.
Yeah.
You are on point. So thank you.
I try, absolutely. So, you know, especially when I'm a fan of you guys, as you know, I will share this with everybody. I've been to St. George, the distillery, multiple times, and been treated with the above all things, you know, when you get to watch somebody produce something that you love is great, because we host something called Cigar Safari, where we bring people down and get to see the factory. So it's a special moment to get to St. George Distillery and get to see you guys do your thing. Truly is a special moment, but your hospitality above all things is always amazing and above board. So I want to thank you for treating me that way. But now,
Thank you.
the moment of truth, you know, this is the moment that we've been talking about, because I said I was going to pair gin. And gin is something that cigar smokers don't gravitate towards at this given moment, because I believe they don't have enough information. So we thought, what a great way to pair a little bit of gin and our Acid 20 cigars today. So if I could get my production team to throw up that great slide of the St. George gins. So let's start talking gin. Oh, well, look, there's a super sexy picture. Don't go off of that right now. So those are your guys there. The master distiller and president Lance, and next up is head distiller and I love to say president of Vices, Mr. Dave Smith, who's coming up very, very shortly. And our next slide is when we get to show off the Botanivore gin, the Terroir gin, and the our dry rye gin. So so Lance, walk me through these, because I've got a little pour of each. So let's talk about Botanivore first.
Okay. So it's a lovely place to start. The Botanivore is. I wanted to say real quickly for the cigar crowd. Cigars and gin are a lot like ogres. They have layers, and and if the Botanivore were a gin, it would have to be at least a 60 ring size, because of the fact that it's got so many layers to it. And the beauty of something like that is you get those layers in different places in different ways. So the Botanivore gin is one that we found all these different botanicals that didn't work in the terroir gin, but they were all beautiful, and we wanted to find create a home for those. So you've got juniper, coriander, cardamom, caraway, cinnamon, cilantro, fresh ginger, orris root, angelica root, peppercorns, orange peel, lemon peel, lime peel, bergamot peel, dill seed, and citra hops. And I don't think I said orris root and angelica root. Those are all things that hit all four corners of the palate. And what's beautiful about them is that they're going to do different things in different cocktails. And so for me, in a gin and tonic, I get more of the fresh green characteristics. The dill comes out, the cilantro comes out, and it's exactly what you're looking for in that Miami heat. You've got that very refreshing cocktail. Then you can work it into other cocktails like a bee's knees, and other things come through for you. It's I think Dave likes to describe it as a chameleon-like gin, where it's going to really show off all the other ingredients really, really beautifully. It's layered. It's big. We bottle all of our gins, all of the unaged gins, at 45% alcohol, so that they can really show up in a cocktail. But even at 45% ethanol, they're soft. They're approachable. It's really about being able to have something that's going to be able to deliver all those flavors, and that alcohol content helps to deliver all those flavors. So there's the botanivore for you.
Well, I will tell you that, you know, if I'm going to hold this up for everybody here. I know it's a little tough to see, but this botanivore is fantastic, and we have great partnerships with our local chains. You know, our big box chains like ABC, Total Wine here in Florida, Binny's in Chicago, Specs in Texas. And I'm happy to say that, you know, if anybody wants to find St. George, they're going to find them there, as well as, you know, asking your small local guys, because they carry the esoteric stuff. So, you know, ask them for it, and I'm sure you're going to get it on board. But I love botanivore. I think it's fantastic. I love it in this, you know, if I do say so myself, in this Spanish gin and tonic. You guys couldn't have put any more things, you know, around there. Because if you're going like, you know, go through the laundry list of everything we could possibly put in a gin, I think you guys did it, and it is incredibly soft when you're having it just by itself. It's
it's
incredibly
delicious.
aromatic.
Thank you.
It's so delicious that my wife drank the entire bottle of it
Okay,
with her gin and tonics and left me with nothing.
So
That's-
this is a shout out to Gina.
Shout out to my wife.
Gina, congratulations, Gina. You've got great taste. Next time, just wait a week so we could have some for the show. But other than that,
that's really on us.
amazing
We should get you more than one. You should have more than one bottle in your house. We got to correct that.
Absolutely.
It doesn't last.
It doesn't last. I need more. I need a bigger bottle. Put it in a 5-gallon jug. We'll go through it.
So Lance, next up, terroir, because I know JD, our founder, has been at the distillery with me, and he's a huge fan of the terroir. So tell us a little bit about that.
So the terroir, I cover the ears of the other two gins right now because the terroir is my favorite. It's one that was inspired by. Thank you. The terroir was inspired by the smells of the parklands around the Bay Area. I was going to pick my son up from day camp one day, and it was this beautiful summer day, and I could smell all the things in the forest around me, and realized that as a distiller, I can capture all those things. It's my job, it's my duty to be able to capture those things. And originally, it wasn't even a gin that I was thinking about when I thought about making something along those lines. And it wasn't until my wife, and Joey, you can, my wife is another gin swilling fiend. And she's like, hey, you make all these different things. You don't make gin, the one thing that I want to drink. What the hell is wrong with me other than the fact that I married you? And so I started putting those two things together. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. So this allows us to have a completely different point of view about a gin. This is a gin that is all about a forest. It's not about London Dry. And London Dry is amazing. It's a great style of gin. But there's a shit ton of London Dry style gins out there. And why do I want to muddy the waters by adding another one in there? So the idea here was to make something that is technically a gin, but really what we're going for is making something that smells like the woods. And anytime you pick up a glass of it, it's like taking a hike. And initially I thought, this is all it's going to be good for, just drinking neat. You know, you pour it on some ice and that's it. But some great bartenders have showed me the errors of my way, as they often have, by making fantastic cocktails with it. The first cocktail I ever had with it was in a bar in Berkeley, Cafe Rouge. It's no longer there. Bartender named Ryan Murph, who's a hell of a guy, grabbed it. First thing he said,
play poker with Ryan.
Yeah, never play poker with Murph. He's a shark. But he smelled it and he said, God, it smells like I just drove to my parents' cabin on the Russian River and I can smell all the leaves that I just ran over. He made a cocktail with it, essentially just a daisy. So lime juice. He threw a little bit of Slivovitz in there and a splash of soda water with the terroir gin. And it was greater than the sum of its parts. And it elevated the terroir. It was a fantastic cocktail. There's so many different things you can do with it. One of my favorites, and again, another one that's great for your climate, is Bramble, which is creme de mure and lemon juice and terroir gin. You shake that, strain it over pebble ice, and it's like the best grown-up snow cone you've ever had. So that's a fantastic one. I still continue to drink martinis with them. Love a terroir martini with about 3, 4, 5 dozen oysters. So and the terroir is my absolute true love of all of our spirits.
Well, I believe it's fantastic. If you guys haven't had it, I think it's truly, I just love smelling it, and everybody in the industry that's ever jumped on with us, and hung out either with me and Eddie is, we're talking about gin. Everybody, their natural default is, have you tried the terroir? And so have you made a drink with a terroir? So that's, so many kudos to you for that, because you really have created a product that's unique and singular. To us, it's a lot like our acid, especially our acid 20, which is a new interpretation, celebrating 20 years of acid, capturing that nature of the botanicals and premium tobacco together. So last but not least, I can't let you get away without not talking about the dry rye gin, because this is truly something special. I dig this stuff, man.
I'm glad you do. 2 things I want to say before that. One, when I first opened the box of the Acid 20, I was blown away. I opened it up, and I'm totally turned on by my sense of smell, and I could just bury my face in that box of cigars for about a half an hour.
Questions are gonna get real weird, man.
Yeah, I just yeah. People walking into the office are going to call HR when they see me doing that, but whatever. It's incredible. So kudos to the entire team at Drew Estate. That's fucking phenomenal. The other thing I want to say is that instead of doing a Frankie Drinks hat next time, just do one that says Frankie does his homework. I'll wear that one because you totally do your fucking homework, pal. So
Frankie says homework.
Frankie says homework. No, nobody wants to say homework.
Listen. I'm gonna save this for the Dave episode. So go ahead, finish the dry rye. But I appreciate you recognizing the homework aspect of me. So
you're an animal. So the dry rye gin was an opportunity to change the base spirit. In both the terroir and the botanivore, the base spirit is it's neutral corn. It's as boring as it can be. It's a white canvas to paint all of the botanicals onto. And the goal there is for those to just ring true. But as distillers here, we've had experience with a lot of different grain bases, and we've distilled rye and loved it, and recognized that the peppery characteristic that comes through from a lot of rye distillates elevates the juniper. And so the idea there was to have something that's got that peppery nature to it, but it's also got a lot of malt sweetness. I think Joey called this out earlier when we were chatting, and this was about the fact that it almost tastes like bread, and it almost feels like bread in your mouth. It's got texture to it, which a lot of gins don't have. It's more in common with a Genever. Again, Joey brought that up earlier. I'm not going to let you off the hook on that. And that texture is just a really lovely experience in a gin. So this one is juniper, and we use twice as much as we do in either the terroir or the botanivore, because you need that much more juniper to counter all of that maltiness to be able to produce a balanced spirit. And we're all about balance here. Coriander and black peppercorn and caraway, which has its own sort of peppery qualities, and lime peel and grapefruit peel. And again, both of those have an element of white pepper to their aromatics. So that's if you looked at a little Venn diagram of all the aromas and flavors. I don't know if you guys do Venn diagrams when you do cigars, but I think in terms of those, I think we both think in terms of those when we're looking at putting together a spirit. Those all come together. That center point there where all the circles overlap is in pepper. but then it draws it out into this much, much bigger picture. It used to be my go-to for a Negroni because it made a Negroni like a black velvet painting of a Negroni. So much more texture, so much more depth to it, and it's a really lovely experience. And because of its sort of schizophrenic nature, not knowing whether it's a whiskey or a gin, because that 100% rye base, it works well into a lot of rye whiskey cocktails. So feel free to experiment with that.
I think you hit on something that's really important there, though. But it's just that concept, and I believe this shows up in cigars and anything culinary, cocktails, spirits, with that concept of that Venn diagram and those like flavors. But it's also about flavors there that are almost the antithesis of one another, ones that are sort of drawing apart to try to actually create a wider spectrum and create these focus points.
Yeah, you bet.
Well,
Contrast colors in color theory. Yeah.
right. Well, I would say this, Lance, I'm not going to cut you off because you're not going to hear you talk about your spirits all day, but I need to give some airtime to my man over there, Dave.
I'm gonna sit back and enjoy a cocktail and listen to you guys.
Patiently waiting, for his moment in the spotlight,
Hell yeah, and it's on him too. It's coming straight down on him.
right? Because the 20 minutes, the sun has shifted
Hello,
over in
God.
Alameda, California. So first of all, I'm going to say thank you for having a cigar with us and having a drink with us, and more importantly, having it in front of that beautiful sign because it really shows how you guys are going against everything and really represent what you do. So thank you, Lance. And with that, I'm going to introduce the head distiller for St. George and the president of vices or vice president. I don't know which one he truly prefers. I'm going to say it's a former. So I have Dave Smith from St. George. Dave, welcome to Sticks and Sips, brother.
Cheers. Thank you so much, man. No, it's a real pleasure and honor, and this is an easy, fun day.
All right. So listen, Dave, I'm going to ask you what's your story, because Lance just glanced over your participation in St. George. So I'm going to give you the platform right now to really expand upon your role with St. George.
Well, one of the things I just gotta say though is Lance almost glanced over a piece of his story where he talked about Jorg, showing up with his homemade bottle of whiskey, and Jorg bringing him on board. Jorg said that he'd try him out for a month, and Lance quit his job the next day as a brewer and started showing up every day, and that was almost 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been sort of an amazing journey. I came on board in 2005. Spent some time as a high school English teacher, also in Florida, in the Orlando area. Spent some time as an English teacher. I spent some time in Texas. I can write some short stories and screenplays about being unemployed and living on my friend's couch as well. But I'll tell you, when I was a teacher, I was kind of became fascinated by a bit of the fermentation sciences, by the wine world, by brewing, by distillation. And I had no idea how distillation worked. It was just magic to me. But I was the teacher that on Friday afternoon at about 3 o'clock after the kids were heading home, I was walking around the English department trying to get other teachers to go to the Tiki Bar outside of Orlando that's aptly named the Tiki Bar, right on a lake, and to just go and enjoy some life and sip on something and decompress. And eventually actually made my way into the wine world via my brother. My brother's a incredibly talented winemaker. He's not watching this right now, so it's okay to say that. But if any of you ever repeat that, I will deny it. He's a incredibly talented winemaker, and I spent some harvests working with him at the winery, and was looking at using that as a way to travel, just to learn more about the world and to keep writing. And really, part of what was so important to me about that was the opportunity to be creative, to build worlds and concepts, and to really sort of enjoy that. And I stumbled upon St. George. The winery I was working for was in the same building as St. George at the time. And heard about Lance and Jorg via Reputation. Both were exceptional spirits. Comments about, oh, Dave, you got to talk to the guys at St. George. Man, when they have raspberries coming in soon, those raspberries, the whole place just smells like jam. It's amazing. It's harvest time. There's fresh fruit coming in. They're gonna have pears. You got to go talk to those guys. And then at one point, the winemaker I was working for, Mike Dash, made a comment about, Dave, you got kind of a dark, fucked up sense of humor. Do you know Lance over at St. George? I think you might get along with him pretty well. And ended up reaching out. And at that point, it was probably like employee to get hired. I was probably like employee number 4 or 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
I'd love to tell you the story about how I got hired, but I don't think I can do it true justice. I'm going to actually kick it back over to my partner here because he tells it better than I do, simply put.
Fucking lazy. That's all I'm going to say about that. And it's only because I've told the story 1,000 times because of the fact that it's a story of how Dave and I got together, and it's magical and romantic. So I love telling it.
Best decision ever made.
Yeah. So we were at a point where I needed somebody to help out with production, and I had gone through a long list of potential candidates and vetted it down from probably 50 to 2. Of those 2, one of them was a friend of our tasting room manager and had a little bit of experience distilling at home. Nice guy. The other one was a tweaker. Thought he might be a meth head. And so
You would know how to cook already.
there you go.
Come on, you forget about that.
But you know who I went with, and I asked the other guy to take the position, and he said, "What does it pay?" And I told him, and he said, "Oh, I can't take a job for that. My wife won't let me." Like, okay, shit, I'm really sorry. And so I talked with Mike Dash, the one who accused me of having a really dark, fucked up sense of humor, and said, "Thank you," and said, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody if you know anybody." And he said, "You ever thought about talking to Dave Smith?" I'm like, "Matt's brother, the mousy little guy. He's super quiet. He's a weirdo. I don't know."
English teachers tend to be that way, but that's
right.
That's a different thing. It's like,
does anybody know Frank's little history there?
of course. Oh, dude, don't
All
steal my thunder. Not yet.
All right, just making sure. All right, that's all I'm gonna say.
So go ahead, Eddie.
No, go ahead.
No.
No, I said so. I said send him my way, and have him come by, and we'll talk about the job. Dave shows up. He's wearing a suit and tie. He's got a resume and a nice folder. Hands it to me. I shake his hand. We sit down, and I look at his resume and I throw it over my shoulder, and I'm like,
And at that point, I thought, I am fucked. That resume was tight. It was 1 page. It was perfect. Everything was dialed in. It was nuanced. This guy's gonna want to talk to me. I'm dead in the water. I'm not getting this job.
I've seen your writing. You're much better off talking. So we chat for a while. And for me, working with somebody is really just about getting to know them, and I could give a shit about what you look like on paper. I want to know how you are face to face. We're human beings, and so I'm talking with him, and I'm like, you know what? I like you. I think you're a good guy. You got the job. I am a little concerned. Your brother's in the industry, and I know that you've worked harvest for him, and harvest is coming around. I'm going to need 100% of your attention. I may need some sort of a test of loyalty. I may ask you to kill your brother at some point. And without skipping a beat, Dave looks me in the eye and says, "Fuckers had it coming for a long time." And I stood up. Dave stood up. I shook his hand. And I said, "Congratulations. Welcome to the team." He was willing to kill his brother to take this job. His brother's still alive, by the way. But Dave dropping the F-bomb in the middle of an interview and then being willing to kill his brother cemented the deal.
Lance describes it as if I didn't miss a beat. I got to tell you, I thought I had a brief dialogue, a discourse in my head about, do I drop an F-bomb in an interview right now? It feels like the right thing to do. I think the F-bomb is the right thing to do, and it's what I want to do. But I'm not sure if that's a good idea right now. Oh, fuck it. Yeah, fuckers had it coming for a long time.
All you kids out there in Facebook land, the lesson to be learned here is trust your instinct. If you feel like you need to speak from the heart, and the heart is full of dirty words, just use them.
Let it rip. Let it rip.
Thank you.
And wait, and to that, Frankie, I think we have the earliest from the beginning of this show. I think that Lance did drop the earliest F-bomb in Sticks and Sips history.
Congratulations.
So congratulations to that, man.
It usually takes 20 minutes in.
That's an incredible achievement.
Absolutely. So you should.
My mother will be proud.
That's
fucking
fantastic.
outstanding.
So,
She probably, I believe my mother probably said fuck after she passed my 11-pound frame out of her body. So
whoa,
holy shit.
Anyway, so kids that are watching out there, grow your lexicon and make sure.
Oh, that's another teacher's.
There you go.
Vocabulary thing.
So Dave,
lexicon,
Dave,
yes.
I would say, Dave, I can empathize with you because I spent 20 years in the educational system. And I don't mean that was just 20 years trying to.
You were in elementary school for 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. So I was an econ and government teacher for 20 years, and I retired. Wow. So congratulations to you, because you were driven to spirits through education. I was driven to spirits through education as well, and usually through the happy hours, because you needed that shit just to stay alive.
Absolutely.
So I feel you, my man. I feel you. And so I don't want anyone else to steal your thunder here, man, because I know your role with St. George has been amazing in the creation of St. George whiskeys. And I know our cigar guys are digging in right now, because they love to hear about whiskey. They love the brown spirits, man. So tell us about St. George whiskeys, brown spirits, and cigars, man. What drives your you when it comes to that category?
So if I can real quick, just from a retailer, guy on the street, what, so like your bread and butter is, gin and vodka, of course. But I at least I'm guessing. But you guys do all these experimental killer, stuff. If you can also like put out how much, where does it go, and how much do you see, how much you guys produce a year on your killer stuff? That's the other question I'm always wondering, from my side on it.
Eddie's trying to get his allocation from RNDC, and I feel him. It's all good. It's all good, because that's how I get my allocation from RNDC is through Eddie. So, I'm interested.
Just recorded this whole thing. It's going to the presidents over there. They're going to be going, "Oh, who the hell is this little guy over here?" And that's the only way.
The little guys are important.
Well,
they're so important. They tell the stories.
Yeah. I really appreciate it, and I got to tell you, one of the driving forces for what we do and for the single malt program, it's standing on the shoulders of giants. Lance came to St. George Spirits almost 25 years ago to make whiskey, and so when I showed up about 16 years ago, I was amazed by everything that Lance and Jorg were doing, and sort of fell down the rabbit hole. Fell in love with distillation as an art form, as a way to be expressive. It wasn't it wasn't what I intended to set out doing it in life as a path towards creativity. But I found that it's exactly what I needed, exactly what I was meant to do with my life. And I pretty much begged Lance and Jorg to let me be in the lab with them while they were tasting barrels, while they were doing blends for the single malt program, which goes back more than 2 decades now. and was completely enamored by it and started to work after hours, trying my hand at it, trying my best, just to understand what they were tasting, what they were smelling, to understand some of that concept of the Venn diagram, to understand how to make two barrels and how to choose those two barrels and make something that's greater than the sum of its parts, and then do that with 3 barrels and 4 barrels and 10 barrels. To answer your question also, Eddie, on the just the whole sense of how big we are, it's a really hard question to answer because it's sort of scaled and been different every year that I've been here, for more than a decade now. There's some years where we're laying down more whiskey. We have more opportunity to do that. There's some years where we're basically just trying to keep up with the gin as much as we can. Our baller single malts is a really good example of this, though, that I'd want to reference, because the baller single malt whiskey. So, some of this shows up out in the world. More of it is going to show up in the future. This came about as a project out of love for having bowls of ramen at our friend's ramen shop in Oakland, and we're drinking highballs, Hibiki highballs, and
Delicious,
we're
by the
having
way.
these amazing bowls of ramen. It's this porky, noodly, sort of a savory broth. You end up with needing a highball as something that's almost like a light beer that just cuts through all that, and it's refreshing. And sipping on that, there's almost a guilt that came into play because we're enjoying this time and place with friends who are like family, but we didn't make anything to contribute to it. My wife Julia used to work at the ramen shop. Lance's son Franklin still works at the ramen shop. These are folks that are extensions of our family, and we're drinking highballs and we're feeling inspired to make something for that time and place. And so the Baller Whiskey started out as a single barrel project to design a single malt whiskey for a highball in that place.
How
And that
long
first,
has the baller been out? When
I
was
believe,
like first release, I guess?
I guess like 6 years maybe for that first release.
Okay.
Something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember, and because I remember it a while ago, I just don't remember how long ago I saw the first baller, and I was like, "Holy shit, what the hell is this?" And like this is single malt coming out of California, and you're like, and especially in like bigger cities like Miami, all right, it's everybody's like, oh, it has to be Scotch, and this and that. When you drink something like this, and then you're like, holy shit, this is good. That's all right. Go back. Go ahead. Keep on.
Thank
No, I
you,
mean,
Eddie. Thank you, Eddie, for that plug there. But I will say this: we just had Miami Whiskey Mash. It's another show that that we do down in Miami, and we were super happy to have St. George with us. And I remember this. So for you guys who can see me, whoops, B&E. This is second edition, but I do remember first edition. And we won't talk about first edition because you can't get it. So let's talk about B&E second edition. Tell us about breaking and entering, because I mean this is a great American whiskey.
Cheers, man. Thank you so much. The B&E American whiskey is sort of our own California. It's our own American answer to the idea of blended Scotch, and it riffs on that entire concept of making something, trying to be a blender to make something that's greater than the sum of its parts. And so what our effort was here is to not only be really transparent about what we're doing and how we're doing it, to showcase that basis of not being held to any one category, to not be held to any sort of federal definition on a whiskey for what a bourbon is, what an American rye is versus what a Canadian rye is. And when you start to get into that, most consumers couldn't probably tell you, most people in the industry couldn't tell you the difference between a Canadian rye and an American rye. And so we started looking at this concept of sourcing casks, individual casks of whiskey from other distilleries. And that started out with the original breaking and entering program. Original breaking and entering, man, that was more than a decade ago now. Lance and I were sort of shooting the shit, talking up a concept of we're making single malt whiskey, but it's a slow process, and we're really proud of the thumbprint of that single malt whiskey and what it needs. But it's a slow process to build. What if we could go to other distilleries and buy individual casks from them?
It was really an opportunity to let Dave out of his cage. Dave's cage was limited by the barrels that we had here. Dave had been put in charge of blending all the barrels of our own whiskey that would go into our single malt expression. And Dave became so good at that that it was like, what would happen if you were unlimited? What would happen if we turned you into the guy from Limitless, where suddenly you have access to everything in the world? And
Rocket Raccoon?
And so what we did was we went to Kentucky and we visited all these different distilleries and tasted all their whiskeys. And Dave had the opportunity to blend whiskeys from a dozen different distilleries. And that's what B&E was. And it's really about Dave's talents as an amazing blender. He could nose these things, categorize them, and figure out how to put. He must have been great with Legos, like nose and palette Legos.
Still am.
Yeah, there you go. So, but he's too shy to tell you how good he is at those things.
Listen, I got to tell you, Lance is very kind and gracious. Most of that is just a fear instinct. St. George's single malt program is one of the oldest single malt programs currently viable in the country. When I started tasting through casks and having an opportunity to blend and hopefully make a strong contribution, I was sort of terrified of making a mistake and of damaging a program that had already been in play for more than a decade when I started really having an opportunity to blend there. I think it was a conversation for the original B&E that 4 weeks later, we were in Kentucky tasting casks, and it wasn't more than a month later before we had probably 400 barrels out here. So to shipped out from Kentucky, and we were starting the original B&E program, which was all individually sourced casks of Kentucky bourbon. We were able to do that for a few years, and it was a project we were really proud of. But Eddie, man, you know this better than anyone. As the whiskey market has changed out there, as it's blown up, as things have gone insane, we kept going back to the same distilleries and buying casks, and the price kept going up, and we were fine with that. We could lose margin. I didn't want to change the price point for any of our consumers, our folks who cared about this thing. But it finally hit a wall when a few of the distilleries, one in particular we were speaking with, made the statement, and we could sort of see it happening everywhere. And they said that they wouldn't sell barrels to any small distillery anymore. It was cut off. And we're really proud of the work we had done and the brand we had developed with breaking and entering. And so Lance, to his great credit, said no more. We're gonna shut this off. If something comes up, if there's an opportunity again in the future, we can look at that. But we're gonna stop making B&E. And at that point, it was a pretty big part of our portfolio. I want to say it was probably 15 or 20% of our sales that we did. Much? 86th at that point.
Wow. You know what? And it was a joint decision. You don't. You can't. It's the difficult thing about being a 38-year-old craft distillery is you have a reputation, and every day that reputation becomes more precious. And if you do something to screw up that reputation, it's going to take you a long, long time to recover it. So we both had very long conversations about what to do with B&E, and we both realized that there's no point. The only smart thing to do is to stop making it, because we couldn't make it as good as it was, no matter what we spent on it. And so as a person with a reputation, you have to do something to safeguard that, and that's what we were all about.
That's very impressive.
We don't want to lose the trust that we gained.
Exactly.
Right.
Doesn't
you
take
know,
much.
and I think you don't see that with a ton of blenders, distillers, whatever it is, you know, and like I said, you know, we were talking earlier how St. George was probably one of my first crafts, you know, distiller that was on my shelf, and it's still there. And you know, in the that I've owned the store 10 plus years, there has been dozens and dozens that have come come through, and you know, all of a sudden they're gone in 6 months, in a year, whatever it may be, because they just um could not keep that, you know, integrity into it, you know, and all of a sudden you're saying, okay, if I can't make that, you know, I got to make my dollar, you know, I got to put something else in, you know, I got to do this, I got to do that. And a lot of them fall through and just couldn't make it, you know. But that's one thing that, you know, from your white spirits, you know, I tell somebody, hey, you know, they come in and they want to try the gin, and they're like, holy crap, that's awesome, you know. I'm like, dude, try every single one of them, you know, or try the little 200 ml, you know, packs, so you can check out which one you like, you know. And those are that type of thing, you know. And that's impressive, going back 38 years, like you said, you know,
Right.
that you could still be that.
Right. And what I'm going to add to that is, like I said, our cigar guys love the brown spirits, and Dave and Lance, kudos to you guys for doing it the right way, adhering to quality. Lance, Joey can reiterate this, but, there's moments when we've had breaks in production for Liga 9 because the leaf wasn't ready,
Yeah.
and we're not, and that's our reputation on the line.
Yeah.
And we are going to adhere to making sure that our reputation for quality product stays intact all the way through. So Dave, hats off to you, man, for making an amazing whiskeys. And guys, if you see Baller, pick it up, because it's truly amazing. That you're making highballs with it, which is my favorite cocktail, which is not really a cocktail. It's a long drink, much like this gin and tonic, but so refreshing, so perfect with a cigar. B&E, shout out to Paul, who gave me my first taste of the first iteration of that stuff before it went out.
Paul, the animal Scara.
The Paul is a man.
Paul the Animal Scara, the Chile vodka, and all that stuff. So guys, I'm gonna take a small break, right? And we're gonna show you a little video that we made about acid cigars. Is that cool?
Bring it on.
Roll
Please.
it.
Do it.
So
Yeah.
let's roll it. Let's roll it.
For the victory lap, though.
Just stop.
It was a great beard, and I took it down
Shit,
when
that's
when I,
you.
All
when
right.
I went
So
to blend. Yeah, when I
yeah.
went
So
blonde.
welcome back. Excuse me, gentlemen. I know we're having a great time today, but shout out to the Acid 20 and that awesome video. And I've got my Acid 20, man, right out of the box. So amazing. Joey, so this is
Yeah.
a Joey moment here, because he was our beauty model for that video. Joey, man,
I mean,
show up the Acid 20 slide if you can, please.
and I'll talk
So-
over it a little bit. But it
uh,
mimics
run
the
us through
story.
it, man.
Yeah, it mimics the story of what Lance really did with the gin. It's doing something different in a category that existed, long before you got there. The first time I ever had an acid cigar was 20 years ago. JD had come back from the first trade show he debuted at. He handed me a handful of cigars, and I was just blown away from moment one. I'd never encountered anything like that ever. And I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. And then to be able to then work with him following that was even more incredible, to go on this other journey of 20 years, which is celebrated in that product. And this one in particular is really special. We make a lot of cigars, traditional and infused, that use San Andreas Mexican wrapper. But this one is really, really special. It leans a little more traditional for an acid, if you were going to say so. That wrapper and the Nicaraguan fillers that we use in there really, really meld with the infusion that we use. And that infusion is so much like a gin. And that's why when you do a pairing with any acid really and gin, it works so well. You're using that same thing. You're not doing contrast. You're doing a very similar thing. You're reinforcing. And that's really where it all comes together. It's a beautiful cigar. And it's a go-to acid. If you're an acid fan, it's the one you got to smoke. And if you're a guy that's always been like, not my thing, you're going to pick it up and be like, oh, wow, this really might be my thing. And it'll be part of your rotation because it's that good. It stands up amongst any cigar we make. It's just a rock star. And when you make a rock star like Lance has, you just run with them. You just keep, in your heart that you made an exceptional product. And there's going to be people out there that are craving it. They don't even know it yet until they pick it up and they try it. And then they fall in love with it the way that you did when you were making it. And that's that real connection that you have as a producer of a consumable good to the person that's actually on the other end consuming it, and just going down that journey together. Even though you were miles apart from the beginning, you come together in that moment. And that's really what's special. And that's what's really made acid special for 20 years. It's just like we've grown something from nothing and brought a whole new wave of consumers, to cigars. And that's something we stand proud on every single day at Drew Estate because of that first day that JD handed me an acid. And that's what it speaks to. It's an amazing journey. And that's what you get when you smoke one.
Well, I'm going to say this. The Acid 20 to me, built on the bones of acid cigars, truly is a unique experience for someone enjoying it for the first time, right? And for the seasoned acid smoker, it is a brand new expression of it. And one of the things you hear most people say, it's like, wow, I really get an entire mouthfeel of tobacco, with the purity of the premium tobacco we're using in there. And it's such a great iteration of acid for.
Yeah, and it hits all of those points on the chart that Lance had spoken to earlier, where that's what you want. That's just well-rounded. It's just not a one-note thing. It starts off in one place. You have a little bit of sweetness up front. The aromatics are kicking in on your nose. And then as the cigar starts to heat up and the tobacco just billows through, it's just incredible. And you hit all of those places in your palate, in your olfactory senses. That's really what makes it otherworldly, really. When you first do it, it's incredible.
Now I'm gonna say something. You guys got a box there. I've got a box here. For you guys that have seen the Acid 20 box, this is truly amazing. So Joey, tell us a story about the packaging for it, because I know it was built on something else.
Yeah, no,
earlier.
it's just, I mean, we did an Acid 5, which was, we got ahead of ourselves maybe with an Acid 5. It was pretty rambunctious of us to be like, yeah, Acid, we're 5 years old. It's like, but you know what? We were proud of it. We were a brand that was supposed to not live a year or two. Everybody in the industry kicked us in the shins. And, so then to get to 20, that was really special. I mean, just from a stylistic point, acid is, there's a lot of graffiti like what's behind you, emanating from that street culture art. But it's also got a mechanical kind of art slant to it too. It's modern, so we kept it real sleek and real popping with the silver. Just didn't, you don't always need to throw every bell and whistle at it. You just, it's such a clean machine, and the cigar speaks for itself.
Well, kudos to you and the team for coming out with not only just great packaging for it, but the fact that we developed something that was so amazing. So with that, my production team is saying, hey,
oh, you got questions.
I've got, people want to win their cutter,
Let's give it to them.
They want to run to the liquor store and pick up some booze before it closes down due to
I didn't get a cutter. I've known you freaking 15, 20 years, whatever it is. I don't know.
Oh my God, he's kvetching.
Oh God, who's got a cutter? Well, actually, I must say, one of the best probably cigars that Frankie's ever given me, and if anybody can find it, is that Pappy Van Winkle, reserves, whatever the hell it's called.
Pappy Van Winkle Barrel Reserve, barrel fermented family reserve cigar. That's something we're very proud of, and maybe someday, we'll get somebody creative like Lance and Dave, and they'll distill a cigar for us. We'll
oh, don't tease, Frankie. There's nothing that we would love more than to be able to collaborate with you guys on a cigar.
Listen, I tried to get you guys to collaborate with having me open my own personal cigar lounge on their back porch. If you go to Alameda, their backyard is on the south side of the Oakland Bridge, and you could see across the bay into downtown San Francisco. It's probably one of the most beautiful sights. And I told Dave, can I set up my own private cigar lounge here? He's like, well, I'll have to talk to Lance. I'm like, so I'd never got a full answer, guys, but I'm still waiting, because
can I just say I was the one that just put you guys together, because come on.
Right, Eddie, you're involved. Don't worry. And Paul Sciarra too. Paul too.
We'll do Paulie out there.
Too, man.
You're both the Yentas in this. It's all good.
Thank you.
All right, so pick some questions, Frank.
All right,
I worked
pick
on
some
my
questions.
for a
All
long
right,
time, so I know that word.
All right, so Ted Munch, ask St. George Spirits. Hey guys, they just cut me out of the loop. So ask St. George Spirits, do you use a pot still for your gins that is distinct and separate from your other stills, and if so, why? So I guess what they're asking is, what type of stills do you use for the gin?
Yeah, please. Yes, we do use a pot still that is separate from the rest. The one that we started doing our gin on was originally purchased to make absinthe, but then we modified it to be able to do gin, and the modifications that we made put a what's called a Carter head or vapor infusion basket onto that still, because there are certain ingredients that you don't want to put in the pot and boil. They will become aggressive if you do that. So if you put them in a Carter head instead, you get these light, esoteric, beautiful contributions. All of the juniper goes into the Carter head. Any sort of fresh green botanicals like bay laurel or fresh cilantro go into the Carter head, and it's a very important distinction to make. And so, yeah, we do have special stills to be able to do our gin. And that was an excellent question. Thank you.
All right,
That was an excellent question. So,
hold on 1 second.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Ted. Yes, Eddie, go ahead.
How much fresh cilantro you need? Because during all this COVID, we got plenty of cilantro and plants in the backyard. Can I just ship some over?
It might not be any good by the time it gets here, but Eddie, super kind of you to offer. Yeah, Thank you.
All right, Frankie, I'm sorry.
But we use fresh cilantro.
I'm never being invited again.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a used camper. If you guys are interested, real cheap. It's on.
Eddie, you're always invited here.
Yeah, thank you. Somebody loves
the Cigar Lounge.
We love you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we're going to open an Eddie's Cigar Lounge here at the distillery.
what happened to Frankie Drink Spot?
Oh, damn it.
It's all right. It's all good. I'll still go. So
Question number 2.
question number 2. Thank you, Joey. John David Campidonica. What are the different spices used in the different gins, and are some of them common to all types of gins? So I'll take the latter half of that question. Yes, juniper is common to all the gins, and I will give it to Lance and Dave. So give us the front end again for Botanivore, Terroir, and Dry Gin.
Do Botanivore.
Sure. So, but before you jump in on Botanivore, the coriander is common to pretty much all gins. Coriander is almost always second fiddle. It's the one botanical ingredient that is like next volume wise, mass wise to juniper. So you'll have this much juniper, this much coriander, and then everything else.
Lance, no one remembers who comes in second. So let's.
You know what though? Don't think of it as a competition. Think of it as a backup singer, because backup singers are super important, and that's the way this whole thing is constructed. It's like a choir, and you need those backup singers.
Yeah, you need the support.
The diva needs backup. That's the way it is.
I almost think about it. People taste chocolate, raw chocolate, without anything else in there, without sugar, without vanilla or anything like that. We don't know what chocolate generally tastes like. We have our own concept of it. I'd say with juniper and gin, our sense of what juniper is, it's led by coriander. It's a definitive part of what we recognize as gin and as juniper. It's a component. It's a contributor that really changes the shape of it. Did you touch base on a lot for the wok roasting?
Nope.
I think that's actually maybe an important part to just discuss for a moment. But think about those botanical ingredients. Think about those backup singers. Think about those contributors. In the Botanivore and the dry rye, we use whole seed coriander, and we grind that up. And that at that point, that coriander's got a lot of linalool. It's a little more, which means it's a little more floral. It's going to have nice citrus notes to it. It's a complement, and it pulls the juniper in another direction. On the terroir, though, that floral note is not what we're going after. So we actually wok roast the coriander every day that we're doing terroir gin. To do one pot still run of terroir gin, it's about 35 to 45 minutes to wok roast the coriander before we can grind it up for that one ingredient. So if there's a day that we're doing like 4 runs of terroir gin, that's a lot of time spent on the floor wok roasting coriander. We had a real high success rate recently by doubling our coriander wok roasting output. It's literally just a wok and a campfire stove, and then we bought a second one. We've got 2 woks and 2 campfire stoves. We've got 2 hands. You can wok roast coriander twice as fast now.
So if you got a third one, would it be 3 woks?
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. We could do that. Living large, baby.
Return of the Jedi. That's all. I'm a Star Wars guy, man. So sorry, man.
I was noticing that Boba Fett, man.
Yeah, you know what?
The way.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
3 woks were the early Jar games. So you're going for the kids. You're going for the plushies and the stuffed animals.
There you go. I'm trying, guys.
All right, third question.
All right, I'm sorry, man. So, fantastic. Listen, wok roasting, juniper coriander. You know what drives the flavor. You know, and according to Uncle Roger, we wok roast it and we don't rinse it in a colander. So for you guys that are watching all that stuff on YouTube, Sam Walker, what makes that San Andreas wrapper so good? And I'm gonna throw this one to Joey. You know, and Lance, I know you like that dark wrapper stuff. You know,
the San Andreas.
What is it about San Andreas?
It's such a great leaf. I mean, for many years, it was frowned upon. It was not looked upon at the same level as, you know, Connecticut broadleaf, which, you know, is the shining star in the Maduro world of cigars. But the San Andreas just brings such a wonderful sweetness. And there's so many different fermentation processes, lengths of time that we employ in the different wrappers. Like the same wrapper that's on an acid 20, in a sense, is the same wrapper that's on a Norteño from Herrera Esteli or on an Undercrown Maduro. But they're all done very differently in how they're taken care of in the pilones, for how long and what temperatures we allow them to reach. And that's what makes the differences in the wrapper between very different tasting cigars. And it's a star. It really shines so well. It takes well to our, the infusion process that's employed for acid 20. Again, it's one of the components. It's the lead singer, and everything else is the backup singer holding that in place, and it brings it all together. The music just goes bang.
Right on.
That's fantastic. I mean, I can't add anything more to that.
And you shouldn't, because now you're on to question number 4.
Okay, but one family, Mexican San Andreas, one family in Mexico. It truly is an amazing story, and we're probably going to have a show just on Mexican San Andreas wrapper. But next up, Eric Fitzgerald, what are some other gin mixers combinations you recommend other than the classic tonic water? And I'll throw that over to the St. George gentlemen. So
Dave, you go.
Yeah, a couple of quick go-tos for that. There's a cocktail called a Southside. Look it up, check it out. But a Southside, I want you to imagine a mojito where no rum has been harmed in the making of that cocktail. So it's gin, it's lime, it's muddled mint, and you've got some sugar in there. And Southside is an awesome, awesome cocktail. I promise you, you show up to your buddy's house with a pitcher of Southside cocktails, no one is unhappy to see you. It is a really fantastic drink, especially this time of year. Flip side of that is to think about a Red Snapper. Red Snapper is going to be a Bloody Mary without vodka. Use gin as a base. Think about the spiciness. Think about something like dry rye. That's spicy, all those malty qualities. Those are going to stream through. On our Botanivore gin, that fresh cilantro, that dill seed, the caraway, all those more savory notes, those will shine through and sort of really be picked up by it. Those are great ways to go with gin as sort of non-traditional concepts outside of the world of tonic.
Well, I'm going to go with a Bloody Mary with an ounce of the Botanivore. I'm going to go to Eddie's house, get an ounce of the chili vodka because I love that stuff.
And
Bloody
he doesn't
Marys
talk about
and
his little that little aged gin right behind that shoulder with that red label back there.
Oh, what are you talking about? This is the dry rye.
No, not you.
Oh,
Okay.
There you go.
oh yeah. That's the aged dry rye. I can't get that stuff. Not even with my local guy.
I do have it, but but seriously, people just
hook you up.
they
We gotta talk to Paul.
Yeah.
I got it. I got it. It's on the shelf. But people
right.
just like always think, oh, you gotta mix, but try that by itself, and it's like, holy, that's it. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, just gin and soda water in a long drink, I think, brings out a lot of beautiful stuff. And I'm gonna steal one from Joey because he always steals one on me. So a little kombucha and some soda water is a great, great
kombucha and gin is next level.
Wow.
Next level. It's incredible, and it's super quick. I mean, boom, boom, pour 2 things and you're ready to roll. There's not a lot of sugar in the kombucha.
All right,
there's loads of extra flavor. And question number 5.
And question number 5, because I got production here. Craig Penders, congratulations. With the citrus in your gin and tonic, do you feel that it brings out different undertones in your cigar than, say, if you were drinking a different spirit? I'm sorry, I'm reading them as they come across.
It is a sport, though. Drinking and smoking together is a sport. There's a lot of experimentation and trial and error, and you miss a grounder, and
so I mean, as I've always said, I mean, there's the opportunity, when you're trying to craft a complement to a cigar, right? You either choosing to go the reinforcement route or the contrast route, and that's, you choose one or the other. But they both can lead to a great complement. Today, we are reinforcing the botanical nature of a Spanish G&T with the beautiful aroma and flavors of a botanivore gin, or if you're using terroir gin, with the botanical nature of a cigar, right? Especially this Acid 20, which has a great botanical and aroma to it. If we were to contrast, we would say, hey, look, maybe we would go with the baller, right? And maybe we would go with the B&E in an old fashioned. So we're kind of contrasting some of the flavors, or maybe in a Manhattan, where we're contrasting where it goes and trying to create the complement. So you're always going in two schools. You're going to reinforce or you're going to contrast. And listen, the worst that could happen is you fail miserably and you still had a wonderful drink and a fantastic cigar. So what's the worst that could
What an
happen?
awful day.
Yeah, it's you put it down to experience, and you move on. So congratulations on that question. I thought it was great, and with that, I'm going to thank my two guests, because I could probably stay on the air for another 2 hours, but I got production saying you need to cut it. But this has been an amazing 1 hour show that we crammed into over 90 minutes, because the gentlemen that I have with me as my special guests are truly incredible, fascinating, and I would welcome them back anytime. Thank you very much, Lance, and thank you very much, Dave, for being part of Six and Sips, man.
Thank you, Frankie, and Joey and Eddie and everybody who's tuned in to watch this. Thank you for all your time, your attention, and everybody at Drew Estates. Thank you so much for all that you do. I have loved a good cigar for the better part of my life, and you guys make some kick-ass cigars, and I deeply appreciate all the work that you do.
Kick-ass cigars, and just really good people who care about what they put out into the world. So thank you guys for being you and doing this right. So cheers.
Man,
thank you.
That means a lot. Thank you so much, guys. We will talk about collaboration, because that's my jam. So
yes,
let's talk about this, man. We'll take this off the air. Next up, I want to thank my man Eddie De La Maza, my partner with Craft Spirits Fest in Miami Whiskey Mash.
Never to be invited again to Sticks and Sips.
Yeah, this is
all of Frankie's friends are a little close-knit group here. They say, "Oh, can we do this again?" And they're like, "No." And this is, I guess, I was the last one, because
Eddie will call you.
Yeah, exactly. I was always the scariest one.
Eddie, there's a list, man. I mean, so listen, but you made it. 16 weeks in, you made it.
Exactly. It took me 16 weeks, seriously.
I've got a lot of friends. I mean, what can I say, dude? It's nothing personal, man. It's business.
You make it back on in 15 weeks, you're gonna feel real good, right?
Yeah, there you go. Dude. Week 32 is gonna be an amazing show.
Yeah, please. I really don't want to do this at week 32. I'm really tired of this already.
But listen, COVID has been incredibly negative for a lot of people, for a lot of businesses in that, but it's given us the unique opportunity to get together. So our little silver lining is this ability to get together with some great friends from St. George, with my friend Eddie, to have a drink with them, as separate as we are, with my man Joey here, and with all of you tuning in tonight. So that's that small silver lining we can take away. And this is the time you could support your local liquor stores, your local brick and mortar cigar shops, and pick up St. George if you didn't know it before. Now you get to know it a little bit better, and I think thanks to what these guys produce, St. George emulates the quality and experience that we at Drew Estate want to provide for you. So go ahead and support those local shops, pick up those great products. Joey, I didn't forget to thank you, man. But we got, what I call the last shot, and you've got the last shot. So the last shot is.
Wow. Oh, you know what? The last shot is going to be different today, because I just got a text message from Rich Lai, who everybody knows.
Tell Rich Lai not to text me while I'm freaking on a show.
And he said, "Look at this."
I don't. I hear the phone going off and I can't get it.
That's the last shot right there.
I was going to say one thing.
So
a cigar with
hang on, Eddie. So Rich Lai Rich lies in San Jose area, so he's close to you guys over in Alameda, and
Yep.
he's a huge Drew Estate guy, and he's got all the good stuff. So
Yep.
so
And he just
cheers
sent
to
this to
Rich.
me. Yeah, here's the Rich, man. Last shot. Done.
Last shot. So no mezcal today. It's all good. I know we had some Banhez. Eddie, what you got for your last shot?
Cigars and Cuban coffee, like a good Cuban pen. You grab that St. Brendan, St. George Nola, all right,
Nola coffee liqueur. This
and
stuff
you
is magic.
grab whatever that Liga 20, and you sit outside, dude, and that'd be killer. That's all I gotta say.
Except that we drink, Cuban coffee by the liter,
Right,
and that's usually not good for your heart. But nonetheless,
but,
with that, Eddie, thank you. Special shout out to Paul Skier out there for being everything St. George's to us, for introducing me to the lovely St. George family.
And a shout out to Jack Hayer, our wonderful producer who keeps the show rolling and moving. Just like
he could have moved me today, man. Screw that.
He didn't realize we were an hour and 20 minutes in.
I was a little upset that he didn't get nominated for an Emmy in production, because he's truly amazing. So shout out to Jack Hare, the entire marketing team, the entire Drew Estate family out there, our sales team, our marketing team, our warehouse, our factory in Nicaragua, and our leadership. Thank you for your support and keeping us moving forward. And listen, if you want to follow us on Drew Estate Cigar. You can follow me on Frankie_drinks. So we got something cool. Barn Smoker Live is happening November 14th. And tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, we got the Underground Sun-Grown Dojo Dogma launch event. Tune in to Smoke In's Facebook Live page, and JD will be on, and we're launching the Dojo Dogma. And with that, next week, it's Face Off week.
Ooh.
Dave, you may want to tune into this. It's Face Off. We got ABC in Florida versus Benny's in Chicago.
Fuck, where am I?
Versus Big Game.
Come on,
right off of 8th Street. Let's do this.
Dude, I'm off 8th Street. You know what they call them, right?
Yeah. So with that, Calle. All right. So with that, I say cheers to all of you.
Cheers.
And have a wonderful evening. Good night. Jack, sign me out, bro.
Good riddance.
No, don't tune out. Don't tune out. Don't tune out.
This is, I've actually had a great time.
That was
awesome, out? Man.
That was great.
All right, we're out. We're off the air. Dave, you were awesome, brother. I'm sorry that I cut you a little short, man, but we were like,
no worries,
rolling
man.
On time, man.
No worries.
You went down the history rabbit hole, and it's like when somebody's telling history, it goes long. But that was awesome. You guys, Dave and Lance, I know he's probably had to go to the bathroom. But,
dude, I ran out when we did the acid.
Lance's got to make room for another martini.
Yeah,
there you go.
You guys were awesome.
No, thank you, man. No, you guys, this is a real pleasure and a real treat. And no, for all those things that I usually go into these things thinking about, fuck, man, I don't know how I'm gonna fill up the time here. Like there's me a lot of
fast.
Way too much time, and then we go way over time every time.
Yeah. I can tell you also, whoever you have on your back end that was in the chat group answering questions, that was awesome.
Oh yeah.
You were actually one of we've had a lot of, much bigger companies on with their brands. Yours is, I think, one of the first to really be that engaged. As you have, you and Lance on the screen talking, but whoever you had on the back end engaging in the consumer side was, man, that's money.
That's actually thank you, man. That's actually that's Ellie, that's Lance's wife, she's our director of communications. She does all of our social media, and she is just
rock star,
ridiculously talented at this. She really cares about it, really works hard at it.
Yeah, but you know what? Because it means something. Because there's people there, they're watching, they have questions that we may not pick, but she was there banging away like one after the other. It was great to see that as I was watching. So kudos to you guys.
And we'll pass it along to Ellie.
That's one of the big things. I'm like, I'm really like
questions.
I'm coming from
and answering questions.
You guys that are, these huge companies, and you're able to do all this stuff. And I'm on a one-man show, and yeah, I have a guy, sitting at the store, but this stuff that, like you said, somebody's just answering questions. It's like,
Yeah, no, that
it's
was
so
really
impressive.
good. It's just,
you know,
it speaks to, hey, when you're a brand and you're a producer of a product for a brand, and that touch point that's so direct and immediate, just it speaks volumes.
But I mean, but Joey, Eddie, I think you guys all I know you all genuinely understand this and respect it. You are built on the folks who care about what you're putting out in the world and what you're sharing with them.
Yep.
And so that's part of the pressure of this. That's part of the obligation. That's part of the joy, is that opportunity to connect and not to waste that opportunity, but to engage with it and help anyone who wants to learn about what we're doing, why we're doing it, wants to celebrate it. Man, we will go to the ends of the earth to try to help them with that, because we're proud and grateful for what we get to put out in the world. Someone else cares about this too. I'm amazed and excited by that. That's a gift in itself.
Well, it's the flip side to this being a form of communication. There's follow-up communication that clarifies everything you said so far, and you have to be prepared to be able to provide that, and to be able to have a team that can do that. And again, like what you're talking about, to have Ellie be able to do that.
No, that was great. Really.
Yeah,
so
guys, for Lance and Dave, I can't see what goes on. I'll actually catch it the next morning, so I get to see the feed of questions and stuff like that. So, my thanks to Ellie for helping that move along. If that was fantastic, I want to take the opportunity to introduce my good friend Will here.
Now I'm a good friend. This
bullshit. Yeah.
All right.
This is bullshit.
Hey, listen, he's a 5-time James Beard nominee, dude. I have to keep a certain modicum of respect here.
No,
So,
I understand that. But sir, coming from you, I'm offended.
All right. There's a dude that works in the Confederate States for Drew State, and his name is Will McFall. We'll meet Lance Winters from St. George.
Lance,
good to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you, brother.
Which
Hey,
Confederate state are you in?
your social media person was on point, because she answered more questions from me than Frankie Drinks has ever had.
Right on.
I was like, can I get an application? She said yes. I was like, oh, Frankie, she beat you to one of my questions. I like this.
She's
That's
awesome.
lovely.
She's
Lovely.
an amazing, fast, smart human being.
Good stuff, man. That's good stuff to have, man.
Right on. Will, where are you based?
North Carolina.
Okay, beautiful state. Went there for craft cocktail conference.
Nice.
Absolutely beautiful.
Good stuff, bro.
All right.
Yeah.
Next up, I don't want to give him too much freaking room here. We got Rich Sly, who had sent us that beautiful picture of the breaking and entering. He is he's family here. And Rich is retired. He gets to live that good life over in San Jose. And
jealous, Rich.
I don't think it's downloaded.
here's
He's still
Terrible
challenging technology, though.
It is.
Terrible.
So I got Drew State Izzy Isola Woods, and she is our retail specialist for Specs in Texas. So she knows your stuff. She knows your stuff. So I want you guys to meet her. She's amazing.
I thoroughly enjoyed meeting you virtually. Like, oh my God, such an amazing show tonight. Like, you guys were awesome. So.
You know what? We're only as good as the company that we keep, and this is a great group to elevate both of us. So, but thank you for doing what you do as well. So, and we've always been a huge fan of Specs and all the work that Specs does. So, thank you. And what city in the great state of Texas do you find yourself hailing from?
I am in Houston.
Okay, fantastic.
Yep.